the main takeaway from the game one trend is that the Mavs blew it. Winning game one, they've gotten off on the wrong foot. They've been successful so far by losing game one, and now here they are breaking the streak. Bad idea.
Yeah. Why don't you, to get us on task, just do what you do and analyze, and we can get our listeners somewhere productive, even though I have done a terrible job of hosting so far.
You're doing a great job. Just don't tell me to shut up while I'm talking from the stands. This is why you pair Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, right? Like 63 points combined between the two of them. Kyrie scores 24 of his 30 in the first half. Luka scores 15 of his 33 in the fourth quarter to bring Dallas home. And this was like the kind of game plan response that Dallas had in the first couple of rounds, as the opponents were trying to force the ball out of Luka and Kyrie's hands, and all of a sudden PJ Washington is knocking down shots and Derrick Jones Jr. is knocking down shots. Josh Green's getting a corner three and drilling it. Like, that stuff was almost entirely dried up in this game. And it was, can Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic create against the best defense in the NBA and make enough shots to weather a wild shooting performance from the Wolves from long distance? And the answer to that was yes. Like, we'll get into, maybe a little bit later, the discussion and debate over how Minnesota plays drop coverage and whether Rudy Gobert's drop defense is tenable against pull-up shooters like Luka and Kyrie and so on and so forth. But I think the big thing was Kyrie Irving came out. It was the most aggressive first half he's had, I think, this entire postseason. He's been excellent in second halves to this point in the playoffs, but this was very clear, very early. He was trying to put his fingerprints on the game and say, he said, I think during his between quarters interview on the court, and then also when he was on the set with the Inside the NBA guys, they're coming off the game 7. We needed to get into their legs. We needed to be aggressive. We needed to go, and they're a great defense. We needed to try to get them before they were set. And Dallas wasn't they didn't get a ton in transition. They didn't have a ton of fast break points, but Kyrie was just repeatedly over and over again when he had the opportunity attacking. You get to half court, you see that there's no rim protector back there, hit the gas. You have an opportunity to turn, just sort of maybe an empty possession late in a quarter into something where you can get something progressive going to the rim, hit the gas. And you've forced them to guard you. His imprint and his, the physicality, the speed, the pace he was playing with, the way he was moving, it forced Minnesota to snap to attention. And when Dallas got down early, Kyrie's pace really was pretty big in getting them back into the game late in the first quarter, and then sort of really being able to weather the storm while Luka wasn't firing well, while he was having a little bit of trouble with Jaden McDaniel's length, with finding his spots. And then by the time that Kyrie kind of ran out of gas a little bit offensively, Luka was ready to take over. It is the ideal of what they were hoping to get out of the trade they made at the deadline in 2023 to bring Kyrie in, supported by the ideal of what they were looking to get at the 2024 deadline with Daniel Gafford, with PJ Washington, and all the size and physicality they brought to bear. This is why Dallas on the right night looks like they can win the championship, and they've been having a lot more right nights than wrong nights recently.
Yeah, having covered that series against OKC for 4 out of the 6 games. Yeah, I missed 2 because I was in Chicago. It's really remarkable how Kyrie looks like Kyrie and talks like Kyrie, but he's such a different Kyrie at the same time. The poise, the veteran, sage, elder. It's interesting. I didn't look this up until I was penning my series opus about kind of crowning the Mavericks front office as team building champions, that he's precisely the exact age gap or seniority, 8 years older than Luka, than LeBron was when LeBron joined Cleveland.
Oh, that's interesting.
And they just kind of have, it is not the same dynamic at all, but 6'7", super generational passer. They kind of see the game from a similar procedural operative lens, but different, more artistic from Kyrie, more surgical from Luka. But the balance that they have found, which to your point about Kyrie coming out from the start, it had been so throughout the first 2 rounds, it had been so evident that Kyrie was just sitting back and picking his spots and letting Luka do him. So that change was definitely notable. And I think it's just a further illustration of how Kyrie's kind of become this offensive chameleon that can just fill whatever gap Dallas needs. If they need a left-handed floater, he's got it. If they need a right-handed floater, he's got it. If he can throw a half-court alley-oop to Josh Green, if it's not going to get blocked by Naz Reid, he can do that too. I mean, the post moves, Jaden McDaniels is having an incredible performance, or Jalen, excuse me. But he sneaks back door that one play early in the game. Kyrie is this is exactly who they traded for, to your point. Even with all the baggage that Kyrie admitted he was bringing with him on his Southwest flight, not necessarily on the airline, but definitely in the direction from Brooklyn to Dallas. He said it post-game, game 6, that he didn't have a simple path. I don't remember the exact quote, but something to those effects to get there. So it is absolutely an argument for just go out and get the all-star, which we will talk on a bit later more when we talk about the Sixers offseason plans. I think on the other side of that equation in this series, to your point about Rudy and drop, it was really interesting to watch Luka just kind of be able to toy with him once he got into the paint, because I remember when I was working on a story about Mike Conley reuniting with Rudy Gobert in Utah, someone on the Jazz coaching staff for all those years of those guys together was saying that Conley was like the best that they'd ever seen, with Rudy in particular, throw kind of like a pitcher. When you get into the lane, you don't know whether it's a lob or a floater, or if it's, going to be high off the glass, or because he was so good at masking it. And it was just really fascinating to see Luka burn Rudy with that on the other end, play after play with Gafford.
You're absolutely right. That cat and mouse game, the control. And I think that's this is, again, we'll get to the drop discussion, but when it doesn't work well, it's loud. Like when you see a guy make a jumper with 5 feet of space around him in every direction, or 8 feet of space around him, and you're like, well, why aren't you up on that guy? And then all the times where, you are taking away that pass, or you are, you're allowing your perimeter defenders to stay closer to their guys on the outside. So you're taking away the drive and kick to the open 3 and that kind of stuff. That's a quieter success and louder failure. And when Luka's doing it, it feels pretty loud, right? Like when those shots are going in and he's able to, bump off, get to that step back going to his left and just continually bang those jumpers. Or, as you said, draw you one step further up, mask his intentions until the last second. And then is it a floater? Is it a lob? Is, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's 2 points on your head. That is having the patience to stay the course there is pretty, it's not something that everybody can do. And the Wolves were varying coverages on him, right? It was drop with Rudy. It was when it was Cat or Naz Reid on the as the screen defender. They were blitzing a lot more often. They were playing up at the level of the screen right from the beginning. And I think Luka probably intentionally, the first couple of pick and rolls that he ran, one was at Rudy and then one was at Cat, and it was like, well, let's see how they're doing it. Are they dropping Cat, or are they going to vary depending on who I bring in, just so he can read out the game. And because he, is like a supercomputer for that, then okay, well, if they're varying their coverages this way, how can I manipulate that to create, make sure this guy's the low man so that I'm getting the rotation that I want, yada, yada, yada. I want to go back to the fourth quarter with Luka, because I think he was 7 for 19 or something like that heading into the fourth quarter. And then it just he got cooking, personal 7-0 run, making shots over Jaden McDaniels, making shots over Nickeil Alexander-Walker early in the fourth quarter, when Minnesota had gotten back up. There was that moment where he catches the ball and has a chance to take the catch and shoot 3. It reminded me so much of Harden, which is stylistically somebody that
very Harden-esque.
Yeah, somebody that that comparison continues to be drawn. And he's like, I'm not going to take this catch and shoot 3. I need Ant to come up so I can bump him off and then get to my left to cash in the step back. That's the more rhythm shot for him. The shot that is harder for 99.9% of shooters is the one that he's that's how I feel alive. I need to bump this guy off and then get back to do it. But then going back to that sort of the cat and mouse game, Luka making his impression, his presence felt on defense late in this game. one, there's, he gets the steal on a Jaden McDaniels pass, and Jaden McDaniels he's dribbling up the court because Anthony Edwards is waving him up the court saying, you take it up, I'm exhausted, which I'm guessing we'll get back to. But Jaden McDaniels gets under the rim, gets into traffic, has to just throw the ball somewhere. Luka picks it off, hit ahead, swing. They get the PJ Washington corner three. PJ had not given them very much in the first half, but huge shot late in the game, just as we had seen so many times in the OKC series. And then on the other end, Luka winds up in the drop on Mike Conley driving at him, and Rudy's in the pick and roll, lurking in the dunker spot behind him. And Luka has to be the defender playing the cat and mouse game, bait and switch. And he baits Conley into throwing the lob. And then Luka, with the knee injuries that he's dealing with and everything else, and the
refs he has to work against every game. They're always in cahoots against him, apparently.
Of course, Sisyphus rolling the boulder up the hill, and the boulder is three guys in gray and black t-shirts with Emirates patches on them now. But he's able to get up. He gets up enough to deflect the ball away from the 7'1" Rudy Gobert waiting to catch it and dunk it, and then comes down the other end. And again, we talked about the way he was manipulating the pick and roll coverages. He knew that late in the game, Minnesota had switched the coverages and said, even with Rudy, we're going to bring Rudy to the level. We're going to blitz. And he says, get out of here. I don't want to screen. Flatten out. I'm going to take Jaden McDaniels, all 6'10", 9.5 foot wingspan or whatever the hell he's got, all defensive second team. And I'm all NBA first team. And I'm going to put my cinder block ass shoulder into this dude's chest. And again, step back, cash. Like, he was the best player on the floor in this game. He showed a capacity to control the game with his playmaking, then with his shot making, and then even contribute out on defense. Like, this is the best version of Luka that we have seen. And that is a scary, scary proposition if you're Minnesota in this series.